Everybody, it's Frank Klesitz here, co-host of Keeping It Real. Our co-host Jeff Manson is on his way. If you're watching this live, we had a mix-up of the Pacific Mountain and Central Time. We are live now, so you are going to get the full Keeping It Real Google Hangout Mastermind with Chris Waters. Say hi, Chris.
Hey, guys.
Chris Waters.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Austin, Texas. We are going to dive deep on how to recruit and how to train a $1 million team. Before we get started, I want to let you know you can go to keepingitreal.com. We have all the past masterminds of Jeff and I interviewing many top agents from around the country on what they're doing to grow your business. They're all up on this brand new website, keepingitreal.com. You can put your email address in there to get notified of upcoming events. And like I said, we'll make sure that the time zones are correct. So when you come on the YouTube page for a live event, that they're right. We apologize for that. But this replay will be here afterwards and forever right here on this YouTube link. Okay. As well as Real Geeks Facebook page, Real Geeks YouTube channel, you can subscribe. And we're also on iTunes. You can actually get a video podcast on iTunes. So you go to iTunes, search Keeping It Real, and we'll be there. I think we just got Jeff to join. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going? Did you let everyone know what happened?
Yes, everyone knows. You look great. And
all right. And
yeah, so we're live. We just messed up the Pacific and Central time zone. No big deal. We're rocking. I just let everyone know what the topic is for today. I let everyone know how they can subscribe to our show on the keepingitreal.com, iTunes, Facebook, YouTube. And we're ready to go. So I'll just kick it off with the first question to get this thing going for everybody.
All right. Did you introduce Chris?
Yes. Well,
all
Chris.
Right. And did you give him a little bit background about Chris?
Yep. That's exactly what's next. So are we ready? Chris Waters, real estate broker, started his own brokerage pretty much immediately when he got into real estate after a short stint at a local real estate office. Started his own brokerage, said I could do it better in Austin, Texas. Super competitive market, by the way. Austin, Texas, where KW is head out of, right? And he built a very fast growing team, and he's going to do about 700 transactions this year. And he's going to share how he recruits and trains his team. But a little thing about Chris, he actually went from zero to earning net profit after expenses. And make sure I get this right, because this is pretty unbelievable for most people. $1 million after all expenses in 3 years. Is that correct, Chris?
Yep.
That's incredible. With your own brokerage.
Yep.
How old were you? How old were you when you started?
Started the team. So I started the team at the June of 2010.
Well, how old were you in that point?
So young, I'm 30, just turned 33. So what is that? 6 years, 27. Okay. So 27, You started your own brokerage in Austin, started building your team almost immediately. Yep.
And netted $1 million after expenses. Was incredible. And I actually have some unique insight with you, Chris, today, because Chris actually came down to my house and we spent 11 hours interviewing you.
I think it was longer than that, actually.
11 hours to help create a book that you wrote called The $1 Million Real Estate Team, on how you did it. You can plug your book there, man. But I helped him write it. It's really good. And we're going to talk today, again, about how to recruit and train $1 million team. So let's start with some questions. Jeff, what's the first question for Chris? How should we start this?
Well, I would like to go in and just if he can share how he started his team back in 2011 and actually how it worked up to 2014, where he got to the $1 million profit, start how that progressed. And then we'll go into now what you're doing now, what the book was about, your recruiting process, your training process, stuff like that. But I would like to start back in 2011 when he started that journey and built the team up to making $1 million profit. That's profit, not gross income.
Yep, net income.
Net income, you know, and that's not gross. Literally, it's great. So can you start back in 2011, kind of, your first hires, how that progressed, maybe, share some things that mistakes you made and what you would do differently now based on what you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, like back then, I had got a lead generation system like Real Geeks, and I was generating just massive numbers of buyer leads. And I really didn't have the skill set to be a leader or a trainer. I knew how to generate a lot of leads at that time, and I was turning and burning listing appointments and generating inbound sign calls. And so I had lots of opportunities for people, but I didn't have a lot of time to train them. And so my first go at recruiting, went great. I was, I basically treated recruiting like prospecting. I was on the phones prospecting agents that had been in the business, and knew what they were doing. So my thought process at that time was I wanted to go find people that already knew what they needed to know to have success. So like the technical stuff of, contracts and all that stuff, like what I thought back then was I wanted to find agents that were super experienced. And so within a matter of 3 months, I recruited 15 agents. And, these guys had like 15, 20 years of experience in the industry. Here I am, I'd only been in a couple of years. And, kind of my value add to them was I really understood the lead generation game. And I had a lot of opportunities coming in. And that's ultimately why they joined the team. What was super frustrating is after my first year, literally, I think I closed the same or more homes than all 15 of those salespeople combined. And I was literally just like, 2011, I felt like I was just beating my head against the wall because I was like, WTF, like what the hell am I doing wrong? Why can't any of these other people, close these deals? And so I had one person out of those 15 that he actually did 50% of the production for those 15 people. His name's Bradley Pounds. He's actually the co-author on this book. And so Brad and I basically built the team together. And what we realized is, there's, experience is definitely a plus and all. But you're really looking for some really key inherent just core values within people. So, someone that's like fiercely committed to the industry, they work full time, this is all they eat, sleep, and think about. It's like they need to succeed at this to take care of everything else in their life. People that were, humble, coachable, just had this perseverance to overcome objections and adversity. So like those kind of like internal core values, what I've learned are just exponentially more important than any past experience you might have in the industry. So one of the first things we started doing, I guess just to back up for a second. So Brad and I, at the end of that year, I went to Brad and I said, I think we need to burn this ship down and start all over. And I asked Brad to be a buyer agent team leader to help with the training and with the recruiting aspects. And so literally in 2011, we terminated everybody's license, and it was just Brad and I, and I think I had an assistant at that point. And the key things we were looking for in people were these core values, just these internal core values that they have as human beings. There's an online questionnaire we found that Darren Hardy put together, and I think you can just type in Darren Hardy core values questionnaire, and it's like a free PDF you can download. And it's a series of questions you can ask people to try to identify like what really are the things that drive them as human beings. Like, for example, a question might be if you were teaching a class of senior high school students in their last semester of high school, and you're teaching them on the core values that they should hold on to for the rest of their life to have success, what would be those core values you would teach them on? Like that's one example in that Darren Hardy core values questionnaire. So that's a free tool you can find online. So first thing we quickly identified was...
Hold on, Chris. I'm looking for it. Is it called the Productivity Addictions Assessment?
No, it's
maybe some keywords, because I'm sure everyone's
core values questionnaire.
Darren Hardy.
Yeah, Darren Hardy put it together.
See if I can find it. I'll post in the chat. Keep going.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's like, man, that is number one. Like, who I don't care if a guy's got 20, 30 years experience. I made the mistake of hiring that guy, and like he just didn't have those internal drivers. And so, and the next piece in terms of like selecting somebody, in addition to those core values, is like you're looking for people with upward trajectory in their career. So, somebody that's, as you kind of ask them about their, the last 5 to 10 years of their life or whatever, you see upward trajectory, not somebody that's going up and down like this. And so that was another thing that was a huge aha, was when I hired a lot of these really experienced people, they had a lot of ups and downs in their career. They weren't like, consistently getting better and better each year. So that's something else really important in the selection process, is finding people on that upward trajectory in their career. And then, the third thing is I read this book called The Rare Find, and I read that in 2011, and that was just a total game changer to my whole thought process. Anybody listening to this or watching this webinar, I'd highly encourage you to go read that book, The Rare Find. And this guy, his name's George Anders. He spent his entire career trying to figure out what makes people tick, and he studied all these different industries. He went and looked at Teachers for America, which is a nonprofit organization for teachers. It was this failing organization in the 60s and 70s, and they were getting these kids coming out of Harvard, Stanford, I mean, like the smartest people you can imagine. And they went to this nonprofit organization because they didn't need the money. They wanted to have to be working on something with a much bigger purpose than themselves. There was a movie actually filmed about Teachers for America called Dangerous Minds with Michelle Pfeiffer back in the early 90s.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
So, I mean, basically, like the thesis of the book is like, when you look at all these, different industries, for example, Teachers for America, another great one is, anybody seen G.I. Jane with, what's her name? G.I. Jane, she's like the first woman to go into the Navy SEAL training.
Demi Moore.
Yeah, Demi Moore. So like if you're wanting to build a team and it's truly about like productivity and having like a kick-ass team, like you need to build Navy SEALs. And so, once you actually like identify the people you want on your team and you hire them, the first 30 days, you need to think about it kind of like Hell Week, like what Navy SEALs go through. Because when you meet somebody face to face, they're going to give you the best answers. They're going to answer the questions the way that, they've probably prepared themselves to answer it. And they're going to tell you the things you want to hear. And so, the whole purpose of like Navy SEAL training is to actually see people in action. Like, how do people actually perform? How do they actually respond in action? So, we used to do like just some crazy stuff to like try to, identify who we wanted to hire. We would get like 100 leads of people, right? And then we'd narrow that down to like 4, 1, 2, 3 hires. And what we kind of learned is, you can try like all these very tactical things to get super ninja at like, trying to be a wizard at picking like the next rare find, the next agent that's going to join your team and sell, 50 houses in their first year. But the odds are stacked against you, no matter how good you get at becoming like this amazing interviewer and like, trying to understand people and all that. Like, no matter how good you get at it, you're never going to be right. The odds are stacked against you. So like you look at other industries, like in the Marines, the Navy SEALs, like they go through this crazy shit to like, for the Marines to identify like who are the real badasses. So like I took that idea and I was like, well, what can you do in real estate to identify very quickly like how somebody's actually going to perform in a real world setting? So some things you can do in the interview process, which we do regularly, is like role play with people on the spot. Like, hey, I want you to pretend like I'm a buyer. I just registered online, and this prospective agent that could potentially join my team. I want you to try to set an appointment to meet me face to face. So that's something you can do on the spot, and just see how they interact with you on the phone. If you give them an objection, do they shut down and they're just like done for? Because if they do, that's how they're gonna treat your leads. And then another common one is I'll get people that get like super defensive. Like at the end of the interview or at the end of the role playing session, I might say, you know what, John, like, man, I just don't think you've got what it takes to succeed. And if they're either one, going to shut down and walk out, or two, they're going to get super defensive and they're just going to have diarrhea of the mouth and start talking about how great they are and what a mistake it would be not to hire them. And like those are the two wrong candidates. The third person, and this is the one you want to hire, is you want to hire somebody that comes from a consultative, question-based, inquisitive, curious-based mindset. So if I say, Frank, dude, your viral marketing sucks, I have no interest in working with you. Why
would you say that? What brought you to that conclusion?
Well, exactly, and that's exactly what a good
natural reaction to that.
That's exactly what you're looking for. Like you want an agent to come back with a question like, hey, you know what? Could you tell me more about what it is you are looking for in the person you're going to hire to join your team? So like that inquisitive curiosity mindset, that's a great telltale sign of like how they're going to treat your leads. So when I I know you guys haven't gotten into this, like the training aspect, and that's a super long discussion of like what the training program looks like. I mean, that could take us hours and hours to talk about. But your first, don't try like to become a wizard at the selection process, because the odds are stacked against you. There's just so many real estate books out there that'll tell you like nobody knows what's going to make one person successful and what's going to make another person successful. Like, it's just, you just never know. It's a crapshoot. I mean, I've tried like every single tactical thing you can think of to try to get really good at interviewing somebody, saying, yes, you're the one I want. And then that person stays with me 2 years. Like the odds of that happening are stacked against me. So the thing we try to put in place is that first 30 days, that kind of ramp up program. If they make it through the interview process, they do a great job with that role playing, and we give them an invitation to come into our team. We tell them we have this 30-day trial period where they come in and we get them like just super immersed in lead gen and lead conversion. So we'll do tons of role playing, objection handling, learning the scripts, have them write the scripts out, rewrite the scripts, and then role play amongst each other. And then we actually get them on the phone and we have them start calling the archive and trash leads. Give them the, obviously not the best quality leads, so they can kind of, get the marbles out of their mouth, if you will. And the whole goal is to see like how well do they persevere on the phone? How committed are they to the process? We set a goal for them to hit a minimum of 75 contacts in a week. So that's 75 conversations with actual people. And their goal is to hit that 75 contact number. And what you'll find out is when you have agents that join your team, again, you want fully committed agents. They're coming in the office every day with you. They're working side by side with you. You're listening to them on the phone. You're role playing. You're doing all these things. But you want to see how committed are they? Because another thing you'll quickly find out, and this is honestly what happens like 80% of the time, is like I start having people drop out. Like in the G.I. Jane movie, like with Demi Moore, like, people, the Navy SEALs, they ring the bell. And so literally like I don't even have to like let people go. Like they let themselves go. Literally they'll come to me after like a week or two in and they're like, you know what? I had no idea this is what real estate was about. I had no idea I'd be spending a vast majority of my time having to be on the phone setting appointments. And so like the crazy thing is like most people don't realize that's 80% of our jobs as real estate agents is spent, trying to convert leads into actual opportunities and people you're going to meet face to face. So that's a huge eye opener that people will have if you kind of implement that process in that 30-day ramp up, is just totally immerse them in what they're actually going to be doing. Brad, my co-author on the book, Brad is like an amazing teacher, 10 times better than I am. And Brad actually put together like this very regimented training program where it might be something like you would expect like going through the real estate school, right? And it's very technical and contracts driven. And you're just trying to just give tons of information to new agents to try to, just cram as much information as you can into their head about all the technical stuff. And what we realized, so that was something we did a couple of years ago, and we realized like that wasn't getting them immersed in what 80% of their job was going to be for at least the first couple of years of their career. So my recommendation to anybody watching this is the technical stuff of contracts and all that. Like it's super important, and you've got to go through that, but you really need to identify your future team leaders and your rock stars based off their actions. And the only way you're going to see how they actually perform is watching them do it. And you can't do it through an interview process. You can't do it through, all these, crazy different types of questionnaires. You've got to see them in action. And that's kind of the whole thesis of that book, The Rare Find, is this guy, as he studied every industry, what he found in all these very successful industries was they had this process people had to go through, and it was a way to kind of identify who was going to be the badass and stick around.
Well, there's a lot of knowledge in that, Chris. I don't know where to start to begin what you laid down there, man.
So Chris, let's just back up. You look for their core values and you give them that test. What core values are you looking at in a salesperson? Because it may be different than like a support person, correct?
Nope.
No?
I mean, whether you're a support person or a salesperson, like your core, like, you know, when I say fierce commitment, right, that's one of our core values, being fiercely committed. Whether that's a salesperson or ops person, in my mind, it means the same thing. Like for an ops person, being fiercely committed to me means this isn't a job. Like you're not coming in and clocking in at 8 o'clock and thinking about at 5 o'clock getting the hell out of the office. If I see somebody that like backs their car up in reverse in the parking lot so they can like quickly get the hell out of the parking lot, I'm like, nah, that's not the right person for our company. So like,
So firstly, you're looking for somebody that's going to take ownership of their job. It's not just a job.
Yeah.
They got to take ownership.
I mean, they've got to look at this as like they're working on something that's got a bigger purpose than themselves, and they're just the type of people that want to just constantly improve themselves in their own lives. And your career is one way to help facilitate that. So whether you're an ops person, admin person at an hourly rate versus a salesperson, it's all about finding people that are constantly trying to grow and get better and better in life. And then another huge one is humility. So, I mean, here's another like aha for a lot of people listening is, I'd bring in new salespeople and they'd start having massive success. They'd close, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 homes in a month. And they're young, they're 26, 27, 28 years old, and they've just made, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 in a month. And they peace out for like 6 weeks. They go on vacation, like literally. There's this one buyer's agent we had. He went to South America, to Argentina for like 6 weeks, and he did such an amazing job, like building up this, huge pipeline, nurturing that pipeline for 6 months, like hitting all his key performance indicators. And then he just pieced out for six weeks, and your pipeline just gets crushed when you do that. All those nurtures and callbacks and to-dos and all that just gets crushed, and your next 3 months you're going to have to be having to rebuild it. So it's that he was an example of somebody that wasn't constantly trying to further improve himself like over the long term. It was kind of somebody that was more focused on instant gratification, and wasn't really thinking like long term. The humility thing, once you get people that start having a lot of success in their first year and they're selling 30, 40, 50, 60 homes in a year, and they're brand new agents and they're talking to other agents in the industry, everybody's like, oh my God, you're amazing, you're a rock star. And they are probably really talented people, but what sucks sometimes is those people, they get a little too cocky and they lose their humility, and they stop being coachable. And so like a super huge core value for us is success through humility. And so that's another super core value for us, is trying to understand like somebody's like kind of their life story, if you will, and try to understand other times in their life when they achieve something at a super high level, and then try to dig a little deeper and figure out like what happened after that. Did they try to keep pushing the envelope, or did they go on vacation to South America for 6 months, or take a year off and just chill out? So anyways, I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah. So basically those two core values. Are there other core values you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple. So fierce commitment, constant and never-ending improvement, success through humility, perseverance, passion for people. That's a huge one. Like we'll meet with people. We'll have agents come on board, and they'll get in the first 30-day process, and like they're just, it's all about the commission check, and they're just total assholes to people. Like they try to force things down people's throat. They try to like manipulate the situation to get what they want. They're not transparent. Our jobs as real estate professionals is just, to report the news and be transparent. Like for example, like there's no point in hiding anything, because that shit's going to come back and bite you in the ass. It's about building lifetime value through helping your clients achieve like the best result possible based off their situations. And if you don't genuinely have a servant's heart and a passion for people, you're not going to last long in this business. Like it may make sense for that type of person to go into the commercial world where it's all about numbers and you're just dealing with spreadsheets and like capitalization rates, and you're trying to meet certain like investment criteria where there's no emotion involved. But when you're helping someone buy or sell a home, like you got to have a servant's heart, you got to have passion for people. So that's another huge one.
It's huge.
Chris, can I go back? I want to share, we jumped very quickly into like how to train, onboard, find out who's the right fit. We kind of skipped over like the lead generation of actually getting leads of recruits, of like, how do you find people that actually want to work for you? Now, I know now you built such an incredible brand for yourself in Austin that no one else watching this is probably near close. Where you have agents just calling you. But I want to go back to the very beginning. And well, I remember when I interviewed for your book, this really stood out to me and was very profound, is you started recruiting like immediately the day that you got an account for lead generation.
Yep, immediately, day one.
So let's talk a little bit more about that and what you did. So the Real Geeks clients here, could just show the Real Geeks account, right?
Yep.
Tell me about that story.
Hey, just one quick thing. Like, so I got Boomtown back in 2010, and like if I could go back in time, holy shit! Like I started adding this up the other day. How much money I would have saved? I would have saved $110,000 if I had gotten Real Geeks versus Boomtown, because there's a licensing fee at Boomtown of like $1,500 a month or whatever, and my Real Geeks platform is $199, and then I think I pay $50 for texting, and like the freaking Real Geeks platform is better, if not better in my opinion, because Real Geeks actually innovates faster than Boomtown does. I love the guys at Boomtown, Greer, all those guys. I'm not trying to talk bad about them, but Jeff, you were in real estate. Like, this shit just as well as all of us. You've been in the trenches. And so, what's important for us. Your system, it's basically you're a realtor and you built Real Geeks. So
yeah, and those are good platforms. We're not, I don't want anyone thinking that we're doing this to bash it. The Boomtown's great, Sync's great, we're great. We just happen to be a lot more affordable.
Yeah. So like, again, Boomtown's freaking, it's amazing. User interface. I'm not bad mouthing them by any means.
Right.
All I'm saying is like, you go through these different stages of growth in your team in different phases. And like we talk about in the book, there's like these 3 stages you kind of go through, like the infancy stage, the awkward teenager stage, and the exponential growth stage. And so like when you're in the infancy stage and you only have like you've got no team members, or maybe you're going to bring on a couple, like spending $1,500 a month for a licensing fee, that's a lot of money. So if you spent $299 and then you invested the other $1,300 in lead gen, like that's going to get you 10 times better results. So anyways, I want to
go back
to recruiting.
So how you recruited people.
Recruiting.
So how can the audience use their Real Geek sites to recruit?
Yep. So, ultimately, there's a proactive approach to recruiting and there's a reactive approach. So the reactive approach is you get something like ZipRecruiter and you have you post job postings all over the web, syndicate them on Indeed and Craigslist, and you take inbound leads, right, for potential talent to join your team. So that's one way is you do all this advertising. You can also, run Facebook video ads. So we're using Frank. Frank, you're posting Facebook ads for us to recruit agents and in our market. And so that's a very reactive approach, right? Like you take the leads as they come. And then a very proactive approach. And this is what I did back in 2010, because I didn't have any money. I couldn't afford to spend money on Facebook ads. I couldn't spend money on ZipRecruiter or WiseHire and all these different systems. So all I did was a proactive approach. And so I basically got the Texas Real Estate Commission kind of roster, and they give out the license numbers. And so you can identify basically who got licensed in the last 2 years. And so I just started prospecting down that list for anybody that got their license over the last 2 years. And I'd call somebody up and I'd be like, hey, John, my name's Chris Waters. I noticed it looks like you got your real estate license in the last 2 years. And I just wanted to see if you had any interest in growing your business, because I'm in a unique position within my team. We've got more leads than we can handle, and I'd love to see if maybe there's a win-win or synergy between the two of us. When would be a good time for us to connect? So, that was my basic script. Nobody knew back then who we were. And I treated it just like lead gen. It was just all about a numbers game, just talking to as many people as possible and prospecting a list of agents that had been in the business less than 2 years. And for anybody watching or listening, most people that are less than 2 years in the business, they're the ones that have the biggest challenge with lead generation, and they need the most mentorship. And the way most real estate companies are set up is they do a great job training you for like the first 6 weeks, and then you're kind of, kind of on your own, right? You're just like a rogue agent, and you got to figure everything out. You're like, you're jack of all trades, master of none kind of deal. And so if you have a team and you've got real geeks and you've got leads coming in, you have an amazing value proposition that you can give your team members leads. And then not to mention, you can help those team members convert the leads, which is 80% of the battle. And then you can also give them mentorship. So like, there's, I like to say there's basically, if you think about it kind of like playing baseball, you've got to generate leads, you got to convert the leads, you got to service the customers, and then you got to follow up with your past clients. Like that's, the home run, right? Like developing a client database of people to constantly follow up with using a tool like Viral. And so that's the business we're in. It's very much, that's as simple as it is. So your value proposition, again, you've got the leads, you can help train them on conversion. And then as things come up, because they're newer agents and things will come up as they're working through these kind of if-then scenarios on transactions when they're trying to help clients accomplish, whatever goal. Maybe it's they have financing issues or they can't find a home that fits their budget or whatever the issue is. You're going to have, as a team leader, you're going to have the expertise and the knowledge to be able to give that to them, and they're not going to get that anywhere else. Nowhere else is going to offer that. So you have a massive value proposition to anybody new to the business to help them go through that, play baseball, go through first base of generating leads, help give them that, convert them, service the customer, and then build their past client database and keep marketing to them. Guys, I feel like I have diarrhea of the math. Y'all stop me at any time.
No, that's great. It's great. We love it.
This is why I love Chris so much. Chris, you have such a unique personality where you're like a high driver. You have enough eye in you to like be with people.
Yeah.
Right? Incredibly problem solving and analytical. You have this like, I could just tell there's so much thought in your mind of how much you've like thought about this for so much of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no question. I mean, to go from 0 to netting $1 million in 3 years requires that.
Yeah.
So, but what I do remember you telling me, and I think we maybe missed over this, is that you just went to these agents and showed them and opened in this case would be a Real Geeks back end.
Yep.
And said, look at the leads. Will you help me call them? And everyone said, yes, I'll join your team.
Exactly.
And it was literally that easy after making those calls. And you built your team how quickly you just got started?
So, I mean, in the summer of 2010, I recruited 15 people in less than 3 months.
Okay, hang on. Hold on. You recruited 15 people in 3 months just by opening your buyer lead gen site and saying, will you help me call these?
Yeah, I mean,
and
literally.
You've been in business for how long at this point?
Frank, I have kind of a long story, but
yeah, but for the most part, when you started,
I started it in June. I started the company in like June 1st of 2010, and by the end of August, I had 15 people, and I had no credibility in the marketplace.
Zero.
I wasn't that successful. I mean, I had decent success as an agent, but like I wasn't. I was only 26 at the time. I'd only been out of college for like 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, anybody can do this. I mean, it's just about
what I want to
taking action, take action, pick up the damn phone and start calling people and tell them like, hey, I'm in a unique position. I've got leads. I'll literally log in and show you all the opportunities I have coming into my system. I'm looking for somebody that's full-time, is dedicated to finding success. And then, put them through that kind of 30-day trial period and totally position it like a trial period. And then just get them becoming like prospecting machines and mastering their skills of lead conversion.
So Chris, on the leads, are you only doing that with buyers, or are you doing that both with listing agents as well?
So my opinion is I think there's a very clear kind of career trajectory path. Ideally, you take as a real estate agent. So I can't speak for the entire United States, but like in Texas, like a buyer's aid, like a contract to buy a house is totally in favor of the buyer. So like there's all these loopholes for the buyer to get out. So like as a new agent, ideally you start out as a buyer's agent. because the contract, number one, skewed to help your clients. So if you screw up, like there's a lot of outs for you, so you're not putting your clients in a bad position. Also, as a buyer's agent, you're going to be learning the market. You're going to be showing houses, learning about all the different neighborhoods. You'll be having to run comps, and like you'll start gaining a lot of market knowledge. So I think for us, what we do here is we bring in new people as buyer agents, and then the metric is once they've closed 25 transactions, then we'll start training them on the listing side. Because obviously they've proven themselves at that point. You know, I know for sure they're core value fit. I know that they're invested in wanting to learn and get better and better. And I know that they're going to do a great job, not only at lead conversion, but also at, getting in front of clients and servicing them and doing an amazing job for them.
Sure. So who works the sellers that are coming in through the online lead gen? Because not all the buyers or the people sign up on the sites are first-time buyers. A lot of them are got
Yep.
homes to sell as well, right? How do you handle that?
So that's a great question. So earlier I mentioned about like a proactive approach where you look at agents that have been less than 2 years in the business and you prospect them, and those are amazing fits for your buyer agent team. The other side of the equation, right? It's the listing side. Like, what do you do with all the seller leads? So what I'll do is I'll take agents that are really experienced, and I'll get a list created for me of agents that are having success in real estate in the market. So there's, in my opinion, of someone that's having decent success is they're selling, 15, 20, 30 houses a year.
Okay.
So I'll go to the title company and I'll say, hey, I want you to send me a list of all the agents in my city that are selling 15 to 30 homes a year. And so I'll get that database and I'll start calling those agents and I'll say, hey, my name's Chris Waters. It looks like you have a really great business here in Austin, and I wanted to see if you have any interest in building your listing inventory and joining a team that can help facilitate your success. And so then I'll meet with them in person, same deal, open up Real Geeks, and I'll show them all of the seller leads. And I'll say, look, I've got the leads. I know I can train you and show you how to convert these. I just need someone that's going to put in the sweat equity to make this happen. So basically, you can use the more experienced agents that are proven. Again, like life story, make sure like they're having upward success in their career, and they're not going from 10 transactions down to 1, and then 1 to 30, and then 30 to 15. Find agents that have upward trajectory and success, and they just have this unquenchable ambition to want to grow and get better and better and better, and go and try, and you can attract them by telling them you're going to help them build their listing inventory, and them joining your team and having at a certain point, once your team gets to a certain size, you'll offer some of the transactional and back-end support, like a listing manager or a transaction coordinator on the back end to help that listing agent turn and burn a lot of listings. What happens is a lot of people, once they've been in the business for a couple of years, they know buyers take a tremendous amount of work, and listings is where you can leverage yourself the most, because you can handle 30, 40, 50, 60 listings, but you can only handle a handful of buyers. So people start figuring that out in the first couple of years of their business. And so the newer experienced agents, they're going to be attracted by mentorship, the inbound leads, conversion. But the more experienced agents, they know they need to build listing inventory, and they know that's the future of the business for them if they want to get control of their life back. Otherwise, they're going to be showing houses at 8 o'clock at night and negotiating repairs on a Saturday and Sunday. So use the experienced agent roster for your potential recruits to help you on the listing side to work those seller leads.
And then some of your listing agents, do you have them do an online lead gen? Do you also train them up in working expireds and FSBOs as well?
So in my honest opinion, I think the best strategy is to have a full-time inside sales agent that is doing outbound prospecting like all day.
Okay.
And is specifically working expired withdrawals for sale bounders. And the reason I think that's important is because, right now the market's really good, and there's a limited supply of expireds and withdrawals and for sale by owners. And so you want somebody that's just laser focused on that. If you have a listing agent that can only dedicate a couple hours in the morning to prospecting, it makes him difficult to be just like a freaking ninja at conversion. And for example, calling that same lead 3 times in one day, and then 3 times again the next day, and then 3 times the next day. So like when we call an expired, we're going to call them 3 times the first day, 3 times the second day, 3 times the third day, and then we'll call them again at the end of week 1, and then day 30, then day 60, day 90, day 180. So like imagine how big your to-do list gets on callbacks. It gets massive. So inside sales is going to be the best for that if you're new, right? And you've got a small team and you don't have the financial resources to go pay somebody, a $30,000-$40,000 a year salary plus bonuses, then have your listing agents do it. Or heck, so what I did back in 2011, I was the inside sales guy and the listing agent and the one setting the calling agents to prospect them. So that also is when it became really important for me to identify that buyer agent team leader, which was Bradley, because he's the one that kind of took that off my plate and started helping with the training and onboarding. So it's, in the beginning, you're balancing a lot of plates, but the thing that's going to create the momentum for you as an agent and drive revenue is going to be, getting as many agents on your team as possible that are fully committed and that kind of go through that 30-day process we mentioned and are going to work your leads. And you can if you give each of those agents, for example, 25 to 30 leads, they're going to do a good job. If you're getting, for example, if you have a Real Geek site right now and you're a single agent or it's just you and one other person and you have 200 leads coming in, it's impossible for you to follow up with all those. Your conversion rates are going to suck. Your client acquisition costs, when you think about what you're paying per lead and how many leads you got to get to close a deal, your client acquisition cost is going to skyrocket. So you want to take advantage of all those leads you have coming in. You want lots of agents working those leads. The sweet spot is typically like 25 to 30 inbound leads, because hopefully that's just one oil well. We try to get the agents to have multiple oil wells. So for example, we'll have a buyer's agent, focused on the inbound leads through the stuff we're doing, like through SEO, Google AdWords, running Facebook ads through Real Geeks. And then we also try to get them to do open houses, try to get them to work their database. So it's important they have multiple oil wells. But if you're a Real Geek user, you have a huge value proposition to any new agent out there or anybody less than 2 years in the business.
So what conversion rate are you trying to get these agents on, let's say, online leads?
So this is super interesting, and I was talking to Frank about this in San Diego when we were working on the book. Every single source, like lead source, has a different conversion rate.
I would agree.
Everyone has a different rate. So you can't cumulatively take all of your lead sources and say, okay, I want my buyer's agent to convert at 2 to 3%, which is what everybody says. You should be converting at 2 to 3%. So SEO and Google AdWords leads are statistically going to convert at about 1%. So that's kind of the expectation you should have for your team. Is any Google AdWords, SEO, or Facebook type leads, those are going to convert at 1%, and then they have a really long conversion cycle. You shouldn't even start measuring that conversion cycle until month 6, and then ideally, you'll get true to form conversion numbers between years 1 and year 2. So that's SEO, Google AdWords, Facebook. Once you start getting into the more expensive places you can go spend money on leads, your conversion rates go up. Not always, but most of the time. So Zillow and Realtor.com, those leads are super expensive. You're paying $40 to $100 per lead. Or if you're in San Diego where Frank is, you're paying $200 per lead. It's insane. But those leads convert at a really high rate. So with Zillow, you could convert anywhere from 4 to 6%. You'll start achieving the 6% conversion rates. Usually after between month 6 and 12, you'll start seeing the 6% conversion rate. The other thing about Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, these third-party sites, is a key differentiator between those platforms and Real Geeks is with Realtor.com, Trulia, and Zillow, a consumer has to voluntarily submit their information
and pick you off a list of 3.
Right. So they're voluntarily submitting their information to you. So that's a pretty damn hot lead. So on average, those are going to convert much faster, but they're going to cost a lot more money. I would never recommend to anybody that's new or in the process of building a team to go spend a lot of money on Zillow, Trulia, or Realtor.com. The reason is those leads are really expensive, and you need to have a well-trained sales team that's working those opportunities. So once you've kind of built your talent bench, and you've got now, instead of like B players, you've got A players because their skills have improved through all the training you're giving them. Then turn on those third-party websites and those lead sources where you're going to start spending 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks per lead. And not only will your conversion rates go up, your conversion cycles shorten. And then, there's other lead gen sources, right? I mean, direct mail, radio, TV, billboard. There's plethora of them, but every single one has a different conversion rate. So, I think it's super important you kind of segment those lists, because you don't want to set some expectation for an agent of 2 to 3% for, converting Google AdWords leads, for example. And that's not a realistic thing. You're going to, number one, the buyer's agent's going to feel like a failure. And then number two, you're going to be like, shit, what am I doing wrong? And years ago, like, I kept reading all these things. Everybody kept saying to me, you should be converting at 2 to 3%. Like, that's what you should be converting at. And then after, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Google AdWords campaigns, and now Frank, this, I've got like 30,000 buyer leads in my system now. I know that 2 to 3% conversion number is total bullshit. Like, Google AdWords SEO leads, those people are so early in the game of searching. So just set realistic expectations for your sales team, set realistic expectations for yourself, and you'll have a lot more success, and you won't feel like you're beating your head against the wall trying to accomplish the impossible.
Yeah.
Well,
I think on the conversion though, let me go back to that, because I know a lot of agents are getting 2 to 4% conversion on that over time, and I think that there may be smaller teams and a little bit more laser focused and spending a lot of their time on that.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the exception. It's so we have a expansion partner in Amarillo, which is a small town north of Dallas, and then we also partnered with somebody else in San Antonio. So like Amarillo, super small town, 200,000 people. I mean, you drive from one side of town to the other in 10 minutes. Something interesting I found about, like, with small towns is your conversion. We found that our conversion rates are higher in Amarillo than they are in San Antonio and Austin. So if you're in a big city, consumers are very tech savvy. They're going to be doing tons of research, and they're probably going to reach out to like lots and lots of different agents. So another competitive advantage for anybody on the call that's in a small market is you'll have the ability to have less competition. Like in Amarillo, there's only 800 agents. In Austin, there's like over 15,000 agents. So there's lots of people running Google AdWords campaigns. There's lots of, everybody knows a realtor.
Austin's one of the most competitive markets in the country based on AdWords and lead gen and all that. That's probably why the conversion rates are so much lower there. All right. So what were you asking there, Frank?
Just past clients and Sphere as a pillar. I know you get business from that. What's the conversion rate there?
Dude, oh man, past client and Sphere marketing is freaking huge. So for every 12 people that we like do a really good job at following up with throughout the course of a year, we will get one referral for every 12.
That's not made up. That's legit from you.
No, that's so here's the thing. So the thing is like I've developed like probably hundreds of thousands of leads at this point. And so like in the early years, like it would have been a disaster if I had gone back and like tracked all that stuff and like looked at what the conversion numbers were on marketing to all those people. But the last 2 years, like when we really dialed it in, and we started using Frank at Viral Marketing. They started sending out our email lists. We started actually calling the people. I'm like the example of what not to do with viral marketing. Frank, I don't know if you remember this, but so like 4 years ago, I was like, man, I want to learn like what Frank's process is. And so I don't know if you remember this, Frank, but I said, hey, Frank, just teach me your process and I'll pay you a couple $1,000s. Do you remember this?
It was easy. Here, make some videos and send them out. Good luck. Yeah.
So like I paid Frank a couple $1,000 and he taught me his whole process, but I didn't freaking implement it. I didn't do it. So my past client and all that follow-up just went to the wayside, and I totally failed at it. And then I finally signed up for viral marketing, and I gave in. And then I started sending the videos. but I didn't call the damn leads. I'd get this huge roster of people that were, clicking on the viral marketing video blog saying,
not even your video, but the people that were clicking on links saying, I'm thinking
Yeah.
of selling my home, or
right, yeah,
I'm thinking of buying.
dude, they're clicking on a link that says, I want to know what my house is worth. And I wasn't calling the damn leads.
No.
So at the end of the first year of viral, then we actually started calling the leads, and then we started getting, amazing results. I go look at my closing board back here, and it's like referral. I'm like, holy shit, years ago that would have never happened.
And I think that's important. I just want to say is that you saw the value in that database. Let me change my camera here. You saw the value in that database where everyone else is kind of putzing along, chasing online or strangers, but you knew to kind of build that database, and that's how you got so profitable so quickly. The keyword
huge,
being profitable.
Yep, huge.
What does it cost you for a referral or repeat?
So we kind of have a multi-tiered approach to our past client marketing. We do the viral marketing thing, right? We're sending out the educational videos, and then we actually call them, just like you guys tell us to do, but I was too hard. I didn't listen, but we do now. And then we also do quarterly client appreciation events. So like we have one actually next week. We're renting out like this space at the Round Rock Express. That's like a minor league baseball team. And we rented out this space. We have food, drinks, alcohol, all that good stuff. And we're going to bring all of our clients in. And so we have like a huge like call night. Everybody in the team comes in, grabs their past client database, and we all start calling and inviting people to that event. So that's another key piece, is like getting FaceTime with people, reconnecting with people via FaceTime. And then the other thing is we send out a magazine. Homes by Design does this magazine. You can partner with Homes by Design. They'll put your headshot on the front of the magazine, and they'll send out this really cool Homes by Design magazine once a quarter. And it's super cheap. It's like $2 to $3 like per person to send out a Homes by Design magazine. And it's like this legit looking magazine, and it's got your headshot on there. It's, you're on like the inside cover, and they have different random topics and content in the Homes by Design magazine. So we send that out once a quarter. Again, $2, $2 to $3 per person. And then we also send out, we use sendout cards, sendoutcards.com. And we send out a home anniversary card on the date in which they bought their house. And then we also send out cards on their birthdays and their kids' birthdays. So that's kind of our multi-tiered approach to following up with our past clients. One other thing is, and Real Geeks freaking crushes this better than anybody, is we'll send out a market report for their neighborhood. So like we'll create a market report, and in the subject line, we put the name of their neighborhood, and it's on autopilot, and we send all of our past clients that report of what's going on in their neighborhood.
So are you sending out monthly or twice a month?
Once a month.
Once a month, okay.
Yep.
Chris, so we got some questions here. I want to get back to the team building stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Would you give a strategic high-level overview of how your company is structured?
Okay, so how it's structured now, back then?
Now, because you give people a target of where they're heading.
Okay, so like here, this is what, if anybody's read the MREA book, right? It was written 16, yeah, there it is. Amazing book, man, like awesome book, but that model gets busted. When you get to about 2 million, 2.5 million in GCI, that's taking into account that your average sales price is like 200 to 250,000. That model gets busted. So like if you're going to grow beyond that, like you've got to start thinking like a Fortune 500 company and what your organizational structure is going to look like. So the way we have things structured is we have a director of sales, we have a director of operations, and a director of lead generation. So those are the top 3 people at the top.
They report to you.
That report to me, yep. And so the director of lead generation not only is implementing like the marketing activities, like, for example, going on Real Geeks and setting up Facebook ads to generate seller leads, or setting up Google AdWords leads. The director of lead gen is also overseeing the inside sales team. and having daily huddles with them, trying to engage with them to, see how many inbound leads did we generate, how many did we convert. So they're kind of like the team lead for the inside sales team, and then they're also implementing the marketing campaigns. So we also have a marketing specialist that kind of operates underneath the director of lead gen. And the marketing specialist is the one that kind of gets into the nitty gritty stuff, and the director of lead gen will leverage a lot of stuff to our marketing specialists. Again, like some of the, going back and forth, like we do a lot of radio, TV, billboards, stuff like that. So going back and forth with all these vendors takes up a lot of time. So director of lead gen, 80% of that person's time is dedicated working with the inside sales team, looking at all the inbound leads and doing outbound prospecting. And then the other 20% is working with our marketing gal, overseeing all the campaigns we're implementing to generate leads from just a very reactive perspective. And then the director of sales has ideally my director of sales right now has got, she's overseeing the buyer agents and the listing agents. Our director of operations is also pretty involved on the listing team, just because a lot of our operational team is dedicated to the listing team. It takes a lot more admin people on the listing team to do a lot of the back end work. So our director of sales oversees listing agents and buyer agents, and her duties are she runs a weekly sales meeting for the listing team on Mondays. She runs the buyer team meeting on Wednesdays. She does a 411 with each individual salesperson, and then she does ongoing training, like high-level stuff, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for an hour. And each day it's a different topic. And then underneath our director of operations, she also has some support staff. So she has somebody that's in charge of our 30-day ramp-up program, like teaching that, and then is also in charge of going through and auditing our lead generation platforms to make sure that our agents, especially the new ones, are implementing the best practices for lead follow-up. And then we've also got our director of operations, and that person's overseeing the transaction coordinators, the listing manager, front desk person, our office manager who's in charge of payroll and accounting and coordinating with outside vendors, maybe attorneys, whatever it is. So that's kind of 10,000 foot view how it's kind of set up organizationally, and that's really where you need to go if your goal is to build like this mega team. It doesn't have to be structured like that, and we weren't structured like that in the beginning. In the early stages, you're going to be wearing multiple hats, and you'll have a buyer agent team leader, and then hopefully eventually you'll find a listing agent team leader, and then hopefully one of your administrative people will kind of rise to the top and become kind of your director of operations and start helping like oversee everybody. So it's. And that's that when you're interviewing. I know this Google Hangout's all about recruiting people. Something like I think you've got to do a great job of articulating when you're on those appointments of trying to attract talent, especially people that are high drivers and want to have massive success in their career. You've got to paint a picture that's bigger than just this one single position, right? Like you can't just paint this picture of them being in a buyer agent role for the next 5 to 10 years. High drivers, people that want to be constantly improving and having an upward trajectory in their life, they want bigger opportunities. So if you're in the early stages of building your team, you got to paint the picture of like, hey, I'm going to need a future buyer agent team leader, listing agent team leader, director of operations, director of sales. So kind of the next stage of growth and where we're at. So my goal is to get for our Austin team, for our one team here in Austin, to get to 3,000 closings in a year. And so I think that's we're going to write another book after we actually make it happen.
$1 billion.
So like this book, by the way, this is my personal journey. There's no like theoretical bullshit in here. Like this is just the journey that I went through, my failures, the stuff that works, the stuff that doesn't work.
Chris, how can they get the book?
I put a link.
Yeah,
But tell them verbally, tell them.
Yeah, so you can go to wirbook.com. And you can buy a copy of the book. I really didn't want to get on here and sell the book, and
no, that's fine. But you're giving so much, so it'd be nice if they could fit. They're going to hit us up at how to get the book anyway, so we'll tell them, right?
Yeah,
you get 100 emails.
you can go to WIR book. Like I didn't write this book to sell books. Ultimately, like we found two expansion partner. Like we found these two partners, these agents in other cities, and they kind of hit a ceiling in their market. And they wanted coaching. They wanted a roadmap. They wanted us to tell them what not to do. And so, for example, this gal in Amarillo we worked with, she kind of got stuck at around like 30 transactions. And in her first full year with us, we helped her get to almost 100. She was just shy of 100 closings in her first full year. And then same deal with the guy in San Antonio. So like we wrote the book because we wanted to find more people to partner with. It's been incredibly fulfilling to like be able to help somebody go from 30 to 40 transactions up to 100. Like it totally changed Lori's life. I mean, like she now has like a self-sustaining business. She has 4 kids, so like she's not out showing houses at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night and missing out on her kids' baseball games and like recitals and all that stuff. So the books really was just for us to like find more people across the U.S. that we could potentially partner with and help them in their business. So yeah. Anyways, I think you had an original question, and I don't think I answered that.
No, I just wanted to see the overall structure of your team.
Yeah.
And then
I think he kind of answered that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Chris knows too much. He can go on for too long. Let's just get one more good question here because we've been going for a full hour, and we could seriously I spent 11 hours with him.
Right.
Little funny story. It was so long that we were laying on my couch and I fell asleep while he was talking. And then on the recording, because for doing the audio, they like woke me up and go, oh, okay, keep going. We're talking like budgets and operations.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, it was a really good book. So I think this is a good question I want to hear. Let's talk about how you ramp up ad spend or what you'd recommend when you promise these new agents leads when you're first recruiting them. How do you get them leads that maybe are good enough, aren't too expensive? How do you ramp up your lead gen to give them the leads when you promise them, when you bring on 15 agents in 3 months?
Okay, so remember what I mentioned earlier, like when you bring on new agents, like you really don't want to be getting the most expensive cost per leads for especially new agents because they need to hone their skills. So in terms of lead quality and conversion, like don't worry so much about that because you really are just trying to help. You're trying to really refine their skills. So how to incrementally increase it. So ideally, you're going to spend money on Google AdWords. You're going to do Craigslist postings. You're going to capitalize on sign calls if you have listings. So we use a system called ProQuest, super inexpensive. I think it's like $200 a month, and it's just a 1-800 number. And you put it on the flyer box, and you put it on the sign writer, and then also like a game changer for us with Craigslist because they changed the rules a lot in the last couple of years. We put that call capture number on the Craigslist ad. So they call into that number and we capture their information. So we actually have a valid phone number to call them back. So you basically want to explore every single opportunity from a lead gen perspective where you've got a really low cost per lead. So that's going to be Facebook. It's going to be Google AdWords. It's going to be taking advantage of your listing inventory and maximizing leads on your listing inventory. And a great system, which we actually recommend in the book and we use, is ProQuest. And so you can basically, every single market's different what your cost per lead is going to be. Like if you're in a market where homes are priced at $500,000 on average, for example, where Frank's located in San Diego, your cost per lead is going to be, really high. In some of the less competitive markets, you can get a cost per lead down to $7. So just from like a mathematical perspective, if you can keep your cost per lead, for example, down to $7, I already told you, you only need up to 30 leads per agent. So that's $210. So if you recruit 15 salespeople at, call it $200 in ad spend per agent, that's $3,000 a month. It's very easy for you to go find a partner to help you cover that cost. You can go to a lender, and any lender would chip in easy $1,500. Some other partners that we get on board is Home Warranty of America. We work with those guys. They chip in a little bit of money each month into our marketing spend. We actually have a chapter in the book about it's called our brand ambassador program. And so this is actually an amazing lead generation activity in itself, is creating brand ambassadors. And these brand ambassadors are vendors that you send business to, and you try to really capitalize on that relationship with them, not only monetarily, but also like trying to take advantage of all the people that they're in front of that could potentially generate referral leads for you.
Cool.
So build your, I mean, what I did back then, because I literally had no money in 2010, I completely zero based my lead gen spend. So I got a lender to chip in half, and then I got other vendors to chip in the other half. So I literally went on Yelp, and I started looking up businesses that were actually spending money and running ads on Yelp. And I also looked on Google, like I would Google companies, like local companies on Google. And I was looking at who was actually spending money on Google AdWords. And then I was reaching out to the business owners, and I was like, hey, I noticed you're advertising. Sounds like you're interested in growing your business. I've got a team of 15 salespeople, and I'm looking for an exclusive roofing company to send potential referrals to. Would you be interested in throwing $100 a month into our vendor program? And I'll let you come to our weekly sales meeting. You'll be on our preferred vendor program. Exactly, dude. That was the biggest. So like that recently, that's been one of the biggest game changers for us. Is so like for years and years, we've like had this.
Everyone listen to this, because if you want to know the secrets of scaling.
Oh my God.
If you want to know the secrets of scaling, of offsetting your lead gen cost, this is how. Let's give this answer, then we'll wrap it up, okay?
So not only do you want to promise these vendors the fact that they're going to be the exclusive vendors, all your agents will be super connected to them, they can come into your weekly sales meetings, but host a monthly roundtable mastermind where, you know, all these different businesses, we're all in the same business. We're all trying to generate leads. We're all trying to convert leads, and then we all have to service clients. So having these roundtable discussions around lead gen and lead conversion, like the conversations that will come out of that, the value is insurmountable. Like you'll probably get these partners that are chipping in $100 a month that'd be like, man, I would have paid $1,000 to be connected with all these other business owners that are talking about what's working in their business. And that single-handedly, like, you know, Rockefeller, I mean, I'm not, you know, Frank, you know this, like the power of a mastermind is huge. And if you could connect with other vendors that aren't in the same industry, honestly, even though you guys, maybe you're in a different business, like how you build your business is exactly the same way. And so that's a great way for you to offset your vendor program. Our guy in San Antonio, he has no brand no brand awareness. Nobody knows him. And like single-handedly, the only reason people are chipping into the vendor program, like they don't even care about the leads. They don't even care about the deals that our team's sending them. They just want to be in the mastermind because they're hearing from all these other business owners, learning about what's working. And, you know, they implement one little golden nugget that teaches them how to generate, you know, $200,000, $300,000 more in sales because of some specific lead generation strategy or tool, like Real Geeks, for example. They learn about some new tool to implement, and their business just went up 30%.
All right.
So much.
Awesome. All right. Hey, I guess we're going to wrap this up. Thanks a lot for everybody. Am I muted, Frank?
No, you're on.
You're good. Okay. All right. I was muted for a while.
Right.
So anyhow, I want to wrap this up. Sorry about the shaky, the start. I guess my team sent out the wrong time on the email. So we apologize if you're sitting there waiting. We want to thank Chris for joining us. He's amazing.
You guys, man.
And we really appreciate you coming on and sharing, and we're masterminding right now. So hopefully they got a bunch of nuggets and wrote down a lot of things, and we'll see you next time. And thanks as always, Frank.
See you guys.
Thank you guys.